My story is about my childhood friend, Gusan. We've been best buddies since elementary school, growing up together in a small rural town called Gyeocheong in South Korea's Gyeongsang province. Fast forward to now, we're all grown up, living in the city and working regular jobs. But something extraordinary happened to Gusan. He received what's known as shin-naerim in Korean tradition. Shin-naerim is a kind of spiritual initiation in Korean shamanism where someone inherits mystical abilities passed down through their family. It's like being chosen to become a shaman, or what you might call a spiritual medium, tasked with channeling spirits, ancestors, deities, or even mythical figures from folklore. It's intense. If someone accepts a weaker spirit or a malevolent entity by mistake, it can drive them to madness or even land them in a mental hospital. Modern science often labels this as psychosis or schizophrenia, but in our culture, it's seen as something far deeper. Gusan's role is a bit like the Oracle from The Matrix. He sees glimpses of the future, offers prophecies, and helps people resolve their problems through spiritual means. Think of him as a mix between a psychic and an exorcist, like a Catholic priest performing an exorcism. Gusan was always a brilliant student, dreaming of becoming a doctor. His two older brothers both went to medical school and are now practicing physicians. With that kind of pedigree, you'd think he had it all figured out. But when his spiritual calling hit, it threw him into chaos. He fought hard against shin-naerim, refusing to become a shaman. That resistance came at a steep cost. He lost sight in one eye due to a mysterious illness. It terrified him, but he vowed never to give in and become a shaman. That was 15 years ago, and he stuck to his guns. Even so, his ability to see spirits has grown so strong that he's become something of a legend in the shamanic community. Other shamans often say, if you'd embraced your calling, you'd be a man shin by now, meaning one of the rare, top-tier shamans in Korea. Sometimes, when Gusan has spiritual work to do, I tag along to help since we're close. That's given me a front row seat to some wild experiences, and I want to share one of those stories with you. We live in Daegu, a big city in South Korea. After Gusan's spiritual awakening, he went through a brutal decade. He was in so much pain, mentally and physically, that he overdosed on sleeping pills and made some dark choices. Thankfully, he pulled himself together. To suppress his spiritual abilities, he sought out other shamans, prayed on mountains, and performed rituals by the sea, as many shamans do. Along the way, he connected with a few experienced shamans and ended up in Daegu. Now, Daegu has this famous archaeological site called the Bullo tomb cluster, nestled at the foot of Palgon Mountain. It's like the ancient burial mounds you'd find in Gyeongju, with dozens of ancient tombs dating back centuries. It's a tourist spot now, but the identities of those buried there are a mystery, tied to some painful chapters of history. Right in front of the tomb cluster, you'll find tons of shamanic shrines called babdong. If you're from Daegu, you know what I'm talking about. These are places where shamans conduct their rituals. The neighborhood is surprisingly normal otherwise. There's even a kindergarten and plenty of cafes. Gusan, still trying to suppress his spiritual gifts, moved in with a female shaman who was helping him. She lived in a 2-story house near the tombs. Since we're friends, I'd actually moved to that neighborhood 2 years earlier. It's nice having your buddy close by. But here's the thing. Our houses were just 5 meters from the tomb cluster. One day, Gusan called me up. Hey, can you swing by with your dog while you're out for a walk? I walk my dog a lot since he does his business outside, So I said sure. It's super close, so I headed over. About an hour later, I'm chilling with my dog when Gusan and the female shaman come stumbling out of the house, drenched in sweat and looking like they just run a marathon. They were in total panic. The shaman was trembling, her jaw slack like she was in shock. I was confused, but didn't press them right away. I grabbed some drinks from the nearby convenience store to calm them down and sent them home. Then 2 days later, I cornered Gusan. What the hell happened? He didn't want to talk, but when I said, "Fine, I won't come next time," he finally spilled the beans. Here's what he told me. While staying at the shaman's house, Gusan kept noticing an old man near the tomb cluster. He'd see him from the second-floor window, always carrying 2 plastic bags, one white, one black. One day, feeling restless, Gusan went for a walk and ran into the old man. Out of nowhere, he froze and bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle. He said it was like his body moved on its own. Why am I doing this? He thought. But it didn't stop. He kept bowing over and over. The old man just chuckled and said, "Are you a shaman?" "Nah, you don't seem like one." "Maybe you just got your calling." Gusan felt this overwhelming aura from the man, like something divine. The old man walked off, and Gusan saw what was in the bags. Cat food in one, rice in the other. The man was scattering them on specific tombs in the cluster, which has hundreds of graves. Shaken by the encounter, Gusan went home and asked the female shaman about it. She said, "You finally saw him. I've been seeing him for 13 years. When Gusan asked who he was, she admitted, "I don't know. His aura is so powerful, I can't even get close." She'd been watching him from afar for decades. Then one day, while heading back from the store, Gusan saw something unreal. The old man was walking up to the tombs, followed by a massive group of spirits. They were wearing military uniforms, some from the Vietnam War, others from North Korea's People's Army, and more. Gusan realized this man must be a war veteran. He figured the spirits were people the man had killed in battle. War is messy. Soldiers don't always know who they're shooting at or why. There's no personal grudge, but Gusan sensed the old man carried guilt for the lives he'd taken. What was strange, though, was why he was leading these spirits to a tomb cluster that's over 1,000 years old. Looking up, Gusan saw more spirits, cats, people in ancient Silla and Joseon-era clothing, all bowing to the old man. The female shaman, who was with him, freaked out and refused to dig deeper. She just said, "This guy is something else," and shut down. One rainy day, Gusan was out walking when he saw the old man slip and fall near the tombs. Worried he'd get hurt, Gusan rushed over. "Sir, are you okay? It's slippery out here." The old man sighed. "I'm getting old. Maybe it's time to go." "Thanks, kid." Gusan offered to walk him home, and the man hesitated, saying, "You sure you're okay with that?" Gusan insisted, "Of course, you're hurt." So he helped him to his apartment. At the entrance, as the man punched in the door code, he said, "I'm going beekeeping tomorrow. Come by. I'll give you some honey and treat you to sang-hwa-cha, Korean herbal tea. I could use some company." Gusan agreed. "Sure, I'll stop by." But as he left, Gusan felt a chill. Something about the apartment, especially since it was on the first floor, gave him the creeps. The old man's words, "Don't come today, come tomorrow," stuck with him, making him even more curious. Back home, he asked the female shaman, "Wanna come with me tomorrow?" She sighed heavily, thought about it for a solid 30 minutes, and finally said, "Fine." That's when Gusan called me to join them. Something about it felt off. The next day, Gusan and the shaman showed up at the apartment in regular clothes, no shamanic robes. The female shaman was muttering to herself, "This is bad. Should we just leave? This isn't normal." Gusan, who's never fully embraced his calling, started to waver. But her fear made him more determined to go in. They rang the bell, and a different old man in a wheelchair opened the door. Right away, he said, "These kids don't seem like con artists. Not exactly a warm welcome, right?" The female shaman froze, unable to speak. Inside, the first old man greeted them. "Hey, you made it. Brought a pretty lady too. Been at this shaman thing for 20-30 years. Huh?" He'd clocked the female shaman's spiritual experience instantly. Turns out, the two old men were brothers. The one in the wheelchair had lost his legs in the war. They sat in the living room, sipping sangwacha. The first old man said, "I know what you're feeling. No need to say it. Drink some tea, maybe some cold water, and you'll calm down." The female shaman was still speechless. Gusan, feeling bold, asked, "Sir, I heard from her that the spirits following you, are they people you killed?" The wheelchair-bound brother laughed. "This kid's got some guts. He's gonna be big one day." The first old man nodded. "You're right. I've only been seeing them for 15-20 years. Suddenly, the female shaman sensed something massive. She bowed instinctively toward the master bedroom. Gusan felt it too, a huge presence coming from that room. The old man said, "Wanna open that door?" The female shaman stayed silent, but Gusan asked, "Can I go in?" The old man replied, "You'll be fine." So Gusan stepped in, saying, "Excuse me." At first he felt nothing, but then he saw a sword, an ancient one, like those used by generals during the Joseon dynasty's Imjin War against Japan in the 1590s. As my theory, these two old men might be descendants of someone close to Admiral Yi Sun-sin, Korea's legendary naval hero. They're from Jeolla Province, Yi's home region, and their house was filled with old genealogy books written in Chinese characters. Gusan thought their ancestors were warriors, and these two fought in wars too. They're true descendants. But then he started trembling uncontrollably, his eyes rolling back. The female shaman rushed in, dragged him out, shouted "sorry" to the sword, and slammed the door. "We don't belong here," she said to the old man. "In all my years as a shaman, I've never seen anything like this." The brothers just smirked. "You didn't collapse? That's impressive." They revealed that another shaman had visited before and died of a heart attack. "We hold rituals here regularly, so we thought you might handle it. You kid," they said to Gusan, "you're still green, so you're fine." But her, pointing to the female shaman, "If she'd gone in, I wouldn't have bet on her coming out." They let Gusan leave with a jar of honey, saying, "Come back sometime." Outside, they were reeling. That master bedroom? It was a place where jeoseung-saja, Korean Grim Reapers or underworld emissaries, rested. Even seasoned shamans struggled to find such places. The massive presence in that room felt like a general, maybe the region's overseeing jeoseung-saja. Gusan and the female shaman suspected the two old men would become jeoseung-saja themselves after they passed. The female shaman was terrified because as she pulled Gusan out, 6 or 7 spirits appeared, glaring and muttering, "Who's this guy?" That's why she panicked. The apartment was like a spiritual rest stop for these underworld beings. Not exactly a cozy thought. Later, Gusan and the female shaman had eerily similar dreams. A figure in a general's uniform appeared, saying, "Those 2 old men will die soon. If you don't see them for a week, scatter cat food and rice at the tombs for 15 days. Time passed and they stopped running into the old man, too scared to approach. They kept their distance. A year or 2 later, he was gone. Gusan, remembering the dream, started scattering cat food and rice at the tombs. Another powerful shaman explained why so many spirits followed the old man. They were waiting for him to become a jeoseung-saja so they could move on with him. The rice and cat food were for the spirits of people and animals who died unjustly, lingering near the tombs. There were tons of them, human and animal spirits alike, either hoping to follow the old man or grateful for his care. Gusan and I visited the old man's apartment one last time. The talisman above the door was gone. Gusan knew instantly, he's passed. The overwhelming presence he'd felt was no longer there. That apartment had been a hub for jeoseung-saja. Despite all the shamanic shrines nearby, no one dared approach the old man. Some shamans didn't even know he existed. Those ones? Probably fake, or at least not the real deal. In the shamanic world, jeoseung-saja are a big deal. Since then, Gusan's spiritual sensitivity has only grown, but he's still dead set against becoming a shaman. That experience shook us to our core. Every time we pass the Bullo tomb cluster, we think of the old man, his spirits, and that jeoseung-saja in the master bedroom. Gusan sometimes dreams of the general, who always says, "Your time hasn't come yet." Daegu's Bullo tomb cluster may look peaceful, but there's another world breathing beneath it. If you ever visit Daegu, South Korea, and find yourself near those ancient tombs, scatter a handful of cat food. Some spirit might just thank you for it. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.